Hello everyone, Bryan here, and today I've got a game of Capture the Flag for you, which was from my live stream a couple weeks ago. What we did to these guys over the course of this game was honestly just dirty. I mean, we had them spawn trapped so bad, we just absolutely crushed them. There was one point in the game I had so many kill streaks lined up in my back pocket, I had to keep waiting to call them all in. I really wasn't worried about being a flag runner that much because other guys were interested in doing that, and these guys were just absolutely dominated to the point that it really wasn't even an issue. So I basically just kill horde and kill streak horde the entire game. So with that part out of the way, I hope you are going to enjoy the gameplay here because it was a pretty good game for me. I am going to do the next round of What Would Bryan Do, as I did not forget about it, thankfully. And I do have a lot of your questions here that I copied and pasted into a Word document from my previous videos. So I'm going to start out here first with a question from Destro and Mush 6, which is V1. What would you do about the education system? I am in high school and it doesn't seem like any teachers care about the students. I seriously don't know how some became teachers. I like to think a lot of the people that become teachers do so with the right intentions, because they do want to, mold and shape young minds and share whatever wisdom or passion they may have for the subject they choose to teach. But on the flip side of that, I do believe there are some people that become teachers because the pay is not bad. And really, I mean, outside of set up your lesson plans, you can have a little bit more of a relaxed, stress-free environment, depending upon how you want to run your class and what school you decide to teach in. And of course, you get your summers off and the spring breaks and Christmas breaks, and the vacations are very numerous and long. So obviously there are some perks there as well. So with that being said, I think, like I said, some teachers may get into it for the wrong reason. But like I said, I like to think that many of them do get into it for the right reason. I think there needs to be more oversight of teachers and how they teach and how their students do as far as testing and grade-wise go. Because I remember Chris Rock, the comedian, said this nation is a nation of B and C students. In every class of 30 kids, you have 5 really smart kids, 5 really dumb kids, and the rest of the remaining 20 are just stuck in the middle. And I really think there is some truth to that. I mean, I remember back when I was in school, of course, you had all your standardized tests, which I don't think were a really good judge of intelligence or basing where, that student base lies. Because, I mean, let's be honest, I mean, they're multiple choice, and normally the questions are a few grade levels below where you're actually at in school. So I think, the education system puts way too much weight on things like that. And I think it would be a great opportunity to create more jobs in the education system if the federal government created a, baseline standard that teachers are to be held to as far as what they're supposed to teach, how much you're supposed to teach over the course of a given year, and how well they're able to convey that information and make their students learn it. I mean, just think about the thousands and thousands of jobs that you could create if you did set up a system such as that, where you could hire all these people to oversee and make sure all these guidelines are being implemented, and if the students are really being taught correctly in the proper manner, and that the teachers are actually were following through on all of it. Because I really don't know exactly what the numbers are, but I know over the years I've read many articles which spoke all about how the United States education system lags behind the rest of the world. Most notably Europe and Asia. I believe primarily Japan. And I really think that should not be the case. I don't see why we couldn't adopt, some more rigid standards and hold our teachers accountable to those standards like the rest of the world does. When there's really just no reason and no excuse for us to lag that far behind the rest of the world. And on a side note here, I know this is a hot button topic for me in general. I've talked about this many times with some other friends of mine. But here in the United States, the education system is normally paid for by people's real estate taxes. And that tax burden is only spread across every single homeowner and household. And personally for me, like I said, I don't have any children. I'm not going to have any children. I personally do not like having to foot the bill the same as another house across the street from me, which may be sending 4 or 5 kids to the school system. I really think that the real estate taxes and how the education system is funded should be changed so that the more the burden falls upon the people that actually have children and are going to be sending their kids to those schools. I know many of my friends have told me that's really not a fair way of operating the education system and that parents really can't afford that much money. But I really think that is part of the decision-making process that you should have to go through when you decide to have kids. You should be prepared to foot the bill, whatever the case may be. I mean, I know in my real estate taxes, I'd say 90% of them is taken up by the school system, and that equates probably to almost $6,000 a year for me. And like I said, I'm not having any kids. I'm not using that service, so I really don't think I should be forced to pay for it. If, like I said, if you want to have kids, it's part of your responsibility and your planning process that you have to be able to pay for their education system. Like I said, I know a lot of you guys probably aren't going to agree with me there, but that's perfectly fine. Like I said, a lot of my friends don't agree with me either. So, of course, we'll discuss that topic in more detail in the comment section, I'm sure. Moving on to the next question, and this one comes from Wish for Your Master. Let's see. He wants to know if affirmative action and should it still be around, capital punishment, and maybe your thoughts on legalizing marijuana. Okay, first question there. Affirmative action and should it still be around? The base protections as far as not to be discriminated against based on race, creed, color, ethnic background, religion, or sex definitely should still be around. You should not be able to openly discriminate for any of those reasons. Because let's be honest, racism and discrimination still is a huge problem in this country and probably will be for quite some time. It's going to take several more generations for people's minds to open up and to those differences to kind of, go away, and those biases. I do have high hopes that it happens sooner, but I fear it's going to take several more generations for that to take place. Now, the second part of it, though, I don't agree with at this point, which is the Employment Equity Act, which basically creates a scorecard, and people you would normally refer to it as a quota system, where you have to hire X number of people from previously disadvantaged groups. I think we've come far enough now that granted, you're still going to need a little bit of oversight on it again, but I don't think you need to have it as rigid as far as percentages and numbers go as we did in the past. As I said, I think we have come, a decent way as far as ending discrimination and racism. Like I said, we're not there yet, but I think we've come far enough to this point where that portion of affirmative action can be done away with. Like I said, obviously still a little bit of oversight, but I don't think we need the rigid numbers, scorecard, and quota system as it's commonly referred to. Okay, second topic, capital punishment, and do I agree with it? Yes, I do agree with it wholeheartedly, and I think it should be enforced without question. I think that there are many, many criminals in this world that commit such heinous crimes that they should be put to death without question. I think that many people that are sentenced to life in prison and sentenced to death that never gets carried out are beyond redemption and beyond rehabilitation. I mean, you look at people that murder families, rape and murder children, kill police officers, where there is no question as far as their guilt. I know many people's argument against it are that, those rare instances where you see someone that has been sitting in prison for 20 or 30 years being set free due to new DNA evidence. And I think, the scientific community and, the crime lab testing has come such a far way over the last 20 or 30 years that the question of someone's guilt in many of these cases is removed entirely. I think the legal system, being as flawed as it is, I think more errors on the other way as far as guilty people being set free, a la, the most recent example, Casey Anthony, and another case that was referred to most often during that trial, which was OJ. I mean, many people, their guilt is not in question whatsoever, and they commit such heinous crimes that the only justification, in my opinion, is that they get put to death. I do not find it any more barbaric than the acts that those people commit themselves. So I would definitely enforce it without a doubt. I would make it, very quick, very expedient, and I do not think taxpayers should be forced to foot the bill to, house, clothe, and feed some of these incredibly heinous criminals. Okay, last question. Would I legalize marijuana? Yes, I would. I personally feel alcohol, which is legal in this country, is much more dangerous. Someone can go into a liquor store, buy all the alcohol they can possibly carry, or go to a bar and get absolutely shit-faced and get behind the wheel of a car and drunk drive. I would, of course, hold marijuana to the same driving under the influence standards, but I don't feel it's as dangerous as alcohol is. Also, just because you make it legal, I don't think you're going to turn this country into a nation full of potheads. I mean, if you don't smoke pot now, I don't think you're going to be any more inclined to do it just because it becomes legal. Plus, I really don't feel it's a gateway drug to coke or crack or anything else if you just smoke a joint on occasion. I mean, add on top of that the incredible amount of money the government could make if they grew it and sold it and made it legal. You know, they could, you know, totally do away with probably the national deficit and, you know, put more money towards, you know, many needed programs like Social Security and Medicare and whatnot. So I would definitely legalize marijuana. Alright, that's pretty much all we have for this video. As you can see, Killer Bunny finished the game off with a nuke. I had a pretty good game myself. So if you guys wouldn't mind, leave me a rating before you leave. I would really appreciate it. And as always, I hope you really enjoyed the video. I will talk to all of you soon, and I hope you have a good one.